morning. I'm here to talk about the power of gratitude. And what I'd like to start out with is, what are some of you grateful for today? Just popcorn style.
My family.
Family.
Friends.
Friends.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning. Great. Well, I'm grateful to be here today, and I'm grateful that you're here today. So what we're going to talk about is, now some of you maybe struggled when I asked you that, and you didn't think of something right away. Others, maybe you thought of something, but you didn't want to yell it out, and then there were others of you that yelled it out right away. But regardless of whether you struggle with gratitude or not, we're all going to learn something today about why do we want more gratitude, what's in it for us, and then also, how do I get more gratitude once I determine I want more gratitude? So to start us all off here, I'd like to read a story, a quick story. Anybody ever been to Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park? May I raise your hands? Great. Well, then you'll understand this. So author Philip Yancey writes, I remember my first visit to Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park. Rings of tourists surrounded the geyser. A large digital clock stood beside the spot, predicting the next eruption. My wife and I passed the countdown in the dining room of Old Faithful Inn. When the geyser went off, we tourists oohed and ahed and clicked our cameras. A few spontaneously applauded. But glancing back, I saw that not one single waiter or busboy looked out the huge windows. Old Faithful, grown entirely too familiar, had lost its power to impress them. So here's the question. Why do we lose our sense of gratitude and begin to overlook the goodness in our lives? So oftentimes, gratitude is around us, but it's become familiar to us. And we forget about all the things like maybe, why did I fall in love with my spouse? Or, why was it so special when my kids were small? We forget all that. So we're going to talk about what's in it for you to have more gratitude in your lives. So who's read the book, The Secret? Anybody? Okay, regardless of what you believe about The Secret, there's one part of The Secret that I feel is it's easy to remember. I think it's very powerful. And that is, what we think and think about, we bring about. So what we think and think about, we bring about. And as Monica mentioned, I co-authored a book, and it's about pursuing a life of significance. And part of that significance versus success is to be grateful for what we have, but also continuing to strive for what we want. And so one of the characters in the book, Ben Michaels, and it's a fictional story, he talked about, my divorce 11 years ago brought me to my knees. It really forced me to decide what was working for me and not working for me. I sought God because I knew I was out of my league in fixing this mess I was in. I worked on being the best single guy I could be. And then Laura walked into my life. I don't think that was an accident. Nor do I think she would have been interested in the old me. But she saw the new me even before I did. So the point of that story is, as we start to change and start to become more of who we want to be, act as if, what if I was someone filled with gratitude? How would I be acting? We start to attract different people into our lives. In this case, he attracted a very unconditional, loving woman into his life. But he had changed. Another thing to think about is, who in the room has 2 children that are within 3 years of each other? Anybody? Okay, and keep your hands up if they happen to be the same sex. Okay, so are those kids, those 2 kids, it might be 2 boys or it might be 2 girls, are they exactly alike, or are they very different? Very different, okay? So if any of you have read anything about birth order, it's fascinating. There's just so much around it. The reason I'm using this as an example is, so let's pretend we have 2 sons, and one son, as soon as I give him something, he doesn't thank me for it, he's not a good steward of it, and then the first thing he does is he wants more. Some of you are going, I got that kid, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the other child, though, thanks you for what you gave them. They're a good steward of it, and they're not pawing at you, wanting more right away. So if you had the choice of who you're going to give more to, the one that didn't thank you, wasn't a good steward, and just wants more, versus the child that did thank you, was a good steward, and is happy when you offer them something else, which child would you pick? So if I'm, as a parent, as an earthly parent, if that's how I treat things, one would think that if it's the universe that's giving you what you want, that you're putting out there, or if it's God or whatever that is in your world, that there's probably some similarity to that. So that's another reason that we might want to have more gratitude in our lives and be a good steward of what we do have, because we may not be ready for the next thing. All right, now here's the next little exercise. What I'd like you to do is, some of you are more likely to have gratitude when you have need in your life, when something's been taken from you, and some of you are going to have more gratitude in your life when you are in plenty. So I want you to, just on your pieces of paper there, write down, if you're more likely to have gratitude when you have need, I want you to put an N. If you're more likely to have gratitude when you have plenty, I want you to put a P. So an N or a P, and just pick one. I know you're going to say both, but if you had to pick one, which one? Okay, just by a show of hands, and I want you to look around the room. Who put an N down? Who put a P down? Okay, so there's more in plenty. Well, first of all, we want to, whatever one you didn't put down, that's the one you want to start to focus on. Why is that? Why is my bent more towards when it's in plenty, when I have plenty, versus when I'm in need? I do know that the easier, gentler way to have more gratitude and to get more of what you want is to have it when you have plenty. Because oftentimes that's how the universe or God allows us to have gratitude. Some of us have to learn it the hard way when it's taken away from us. But of course, the goal is to have gratitude in any and every situation. All right, so is everybody convinced that no matter, at the very beginning where it came to you easily, that having more gratitude in your life could help you? You all got the why? Okay, let's talk about 3 ways of the how. So assuming you want more in your life, 3 ways of the how. And the first thing I'd like to read is, there's a psychologist named Sarah Radcliffe, and she's a member of the College of Psychologists in Ontario, Canada. And what she talks about is positive versus negatives with your children. But we're all just children, trapped in adults' bodies, fair? So if it works for kids, it works for us. So what she writes is, feed positive thoughts into your castle. The ideal positive to negative ratio is 80 to 20. For every positive action a parent makes towards a child, he can afford to make 1 negative one. So 4 to 1. So even though, for example, for those of you that speak or get in front of people, isn't it unusual that all of a sudden you have that discouraging voice just right before you get up there? And so somehow, I can attempt to keep that out of my castle, but maybe I need to put some positive things in my castle. And so many of you have heard of affirmations with an I, A-F-F-I-R-M-A-T-I-O-N-S. And for me, before I get up and talk to a group of people, because I'm always a little bit nervous, that means I care, is because I want to make sure that you leave here happy. So one of the things I tell myself is, I've done this before, I'm fully prepared, and you're going to love it. Those are my affirmations. Now, some of you might say, but I don't know how to come up with affirmations. Well, there's a book out there called The Little Book of Affirmations. Who's read that book? Okay, it's a keeper. It's by Noah St. John and Ashley Berard. And so affirmations is with an O, A-F-F-O-R-M-A-T-I-O-N-S. And so when I have, for example, if someone has something bad happen to them, oftentimes they'll say, why does this always happen to me? And what happens is their brain starts to solve that because you never learn your lesson, because you're always running late. You see where it's all going? Well, what if instead I ask myself, what great things will be accomplished in my life through this trial? So my brain is going to search for that and solve that. That's where your affirmations with an I can come from. So that's one way. Another way is a gratitude journal. A gratitude journal doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be, it's just just popcorn style like we did earlier. My family, air conditioning. What am I grateful for? I don't know about you all, but when I tend to have the oppression in my life is right when I wake up in the morning. And so that's when I go into attack mode, where I sit down and whether it's praying or whether it's putting those positive things into my mind. And that's when I go back and look at my gratitude journal and see all the blessings that are in my life. There's so many. But sometimes it's just that one thing. If I'm not careful, I allow that one negative thing into my castle, and I can allow it to disrupt my day. And then the last one, for those of you that are more visual, who in the room has ever done a dream board or a vision board? Anybody? I don't know if you've ever thought about doing a gratitude board. And what's really positive about a gratitude board is you can literally find whatever you want to put on that poster board on the internet now. I mean, it's exactly what you want. And you can put pictures of your family, you can put pictures of your grandkids, you can get pictures of your car, your home, all those things that you already have that you're thankful for. So what I'd like you to do, there's 3 things we talked about. We talked about affirmations, asking myself a positive question so my mind starts to solve. We have the gratitude journal, and we have the gratitude board. And I'd like you to write down which one you intend to take action on today. You can do every one of these today. And with that, I would just like to thank you for your time, and I'm grateful that each and every one of you are here. Thank you.